Hey, welcome back, Rankers. Big news from Google last week. But before I get onto that, if this is your first time here, where have you been? We've been doing this for 13 years. So if you want to get the latest SEO, digital marketing tips every week in your inbox, just subscribe. Subscribe, hit the YouTube subscribe button, go to stuartmedia.com.au, subscribe there. But the easiest way is probably just hitting the YouTube subscribe button, and we will see you every week. All right, so last week, what happened? Google started sending out these sorts of announcements. Have a look at this. If you got one of these and you're a retailer, you better act on it, all right? Because what Google is saying now, so HTTPS, right? It's been a thing for over the last year. Google originally said that back in, I think it was 2014, that if you went to HTTPS, it would have some sort of ranking boost. That's really marginal. And people who are doing it for a ranking boost, forget it. It's going to be almost immeasurable. What does happen when you move to HTTPS, though, is that it can be a lot of turmoil, a lot of a tumult, and the reason for that is that you're changing all your URLs, essentially. And the other thing that happens with HTTPS is that it slows your site down, your page load time down marginally, because there has to be a lookup done to actually get the certificate and everything else, right? So there's a couple of, anywhere between 100 to a couple of 100 milliseconds increase in page load time when you move to HTTPS. So there is that as well. But what is particularly scary about this announcement, or this wasn't even an announcement, it's just a whole bunch of warnings sent out, I think it was on Friday, is that it's saying here if your site has fields such as input type text, well, that's any form, right? That's a search form, that's a inquiry form, that's any form that is on your site is going to start showing not secure. So what does that look like? Well, let's go and have a look at, say, one of Australia's telcos, one of the world's larger telcos. And you can see here, this is Vodafone. You can see up here in the browser, we've got not secure. So the browser I'm using at the moment is a Chrome beta version. It's not clear at this stage whether these warnings will turn red like I've got here. This is just a setting that I've got in Chrome to see what these things are going to look like. But what will happen is that you will see notifications like that. Login not secure on, say, a password field. On a form, we don't yet know. I'm assuming that it will say not secure when you go to put data into a form. Now, if this turns red, so we're already getting this on a lot of sites at the moment, right? Any site that doesn't have HTTPS at the moment will have a not secure warning, especially on their login pages and those sorts of things. But Google is saying it's going to be on every page. Every page that is not HTTPS will have this not secure warning. So who will that affect? Well, in Australia, like if I'm just doing a search here for shoes and I'm saying, only show me results that are not secure. So I'm saying, don't show me HTTPS results. And you can see here, we've got Australia's biggest retailers, basically. So we've got ASOS, we've got David Jones, we've got The Iconic, we've got, who else? Oh, there's a whole bunch there, right? So Cotton On, Betts, wow, there's Kmart. I mean, you know, this is going to affect a lot of Australian businesses if you don't do that. And what's going to happen is that conversions will drop through the floor, okay? So if you are a retailer, this is going to affect you probably more so than a service business or anything else, anybody else who's not selling online. But you're going to run a million miles if you're a consumer and you see that the site you're on is not secure and you've got your credit card ready. You're not going to hang about. You're going to move. It's also affecting, it's going to affect a lot of government sites as well. So if we say sites.gov.au, so we can see here that the Australia Council, the High Court of Australia is insecure, the Defence Department is insecure. So you're going to go, the Defence Department's going to say, no, your Defence Department's insecure, buddy. So it's going to, oh, here's another one that will affect too. Well, why don't we just go phones? And you will see here it will affect Harvey Norman, which is arguably one of Australia's biggest retailers, Optus, Virgin, LG, Kmart again, so Vodafone, there are, our biggest publishers. Sydney Morning Herald, Fairfax, Herald Sun, they are all insecure and they're all going to get hit by this update. Now, Google is saying you've got until October to do it. So you've got essentially a month and you're going to need that, especially these big sites. One strategy that you might want to try if you've got a massive site and this is going to be just a huge undertaking for your organization, you could always wait until this turns to not secure and find out what happens to your transactions and then make some plans or have some plans ready. But from what we're saying is that if you have a site that is transacting in any way and people start saying not secure, not only up here in your browser, but in your forms, that's gonna push your conversions through the floor. This is the list of tasks that we do to go through HTTPS. So it's not an insignificant task to undertake. It's quite complex. There's quite a lot to do. And there's little things that can trip you up along the way. So of course, if you don't want to do it, we'll do it for you, obviously. But when you're doing it, the key things are, make sure everything is redirected. Okay, make sure all your HTTP individual pages are redirected to their equivalent on the HTTPS. Make sure all your other assets, your JavaScript, your CSS, your images, all those sorts of things are also at HTTPS. Make sure you do a crawl after you've gone live with HTTPS to make sure you don't have any HTTP URLs left from your own site in the site, and make sure that HTTP actually does redirect. So we've seen some hosting companies just switch HTTPS on, which is bad because what happens then is that all your HTTP 404s, if you haven't redirected them, and sometimes what we also see happen is that they leave the HTTP on and the HTTPS. So you have two versions of your site live, which is basically duplication. So also incredibly bad. But you need to do this. So there's a couple of retailers we've been holding off on our own, because we're looking at HTTPS and you look at the risk versus reward always, right, with these things. And up until now, the bump from HTTPS, the uptick, really hasn't been big enough to justify the turmoil that going through a HTTPS change involves. So we've held off. And there've been HTTPS at the shopping carts, obviously, and those sorts of things, but just not at the rest of the site, like all the retailers I showed you before. However, now you go, well, you're going to see a drop-off in people actually getting to the shopping cart now because they're going to see these not secure warnings. So now you go, now we have to do it. And Google said they're always going to do this. This is always going to be a carrot and stick approach to push the world and site owners to HTTPS. And in case you don't know what HTTPS, basically it just stops what we call man-in-the-middle attacks. So it just means that a user, when they're on your website, everything between your website and them is encrypted. So nobody can intercept a transaction and grab their password or their credit card details or anything like that. That's what HTTPS does. But if you are a retailer, you're going to have to do it now. Hopefully that's helpful. And if you need a hand, just hit us up. And if you've got anything out of this show, please subscribe and share it with your friends. And we'll see you next week. Thanks very much, everyone. Oh, by the way, speaking gigs over the next week in Brisbane for the Advisor Bootcamp. Hope to see a bunch of you there. In Sydney on Thursday. Hope to see a bunch of you there, Advisor Bootcamp. And then next week we've got Melbourne And of course, Queenstown, we'll see you there, but I'll catch up with you before then. Thanks very much.